This video is going to be walking through how to clean and summarize the data collected through the teacher time diaries. So you're going to start on this step after you have received at least one teacher time diary. It doesn't have to necessarily be the end of both time diary windows. You can start this as soon as you receive at least one completed diary. So first I'm going to show you how I have my screen set up, because I think it's helpful to be able to view both the steps that you'll be working through as well as the time diary you're working on. So you'll see on the left here, I have pulled up the time audit data collection guide, specifically on section 5, where it talks about cleaning and summarizing the time data. Then on the right here, I have pulled up the actual time diary that I'll be working through. So the first step in cleaning the data, and again, it's really important that before analyzing the data, you have it cleaned, because all of this data is what fills this summary data. So if there's anything that's incorrect or skewing on the actual teacher time diary, it's going to impact what it looks like on your resulting time diary summary, as well as the summary produced of all of the time diaries collected on your campus. So it's really important that you work through these steps. They will seem a little bit detailed, but they're all really important. So the first part is you want to first start by working on the time tracker tab. So you'll see down here where it says time tracker, enter all data here. The first step is to ensure that data has been entered into each of the following cells. So you'll see the first one is E5. They're all highlighted. So we want to make sure that there's a date that's been entered. So I see that November 12th has been entered, and that's a Monday. Next one, the 13th, which was a Tuesday. The 14th, which is a Wednesday. The 15th, the 16th. Saturday, they didn't collect any data, so that's okay. And Sunday, they didn't collect any data. If Saturday and Sunday are blank, it just means that they did not work or did not record their the work that they did do. You'll see that it's important that these cells are filled out, because when I delete the data there, it deletes the dates that are entered in this column. And this is really important for that summary tab. So I really need to make sure that the dates are entered. If there's anything that's ever missing, just check with the teacher themselves to verify the date that the data was collected. The next step is to verify that at least 5 days of data have been collected. I did see that there was Monday through Friday, data was collected. If, for instance, there was not data that was collected on Wednesday, then I would reach out to the teacher and ask if they would be able to complete another data collection window during the makeup window. So I would just ask that they spend that Wednesday during the makeup window collecting additional data. So I have data that is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. The next step is to review column F for any outliers. So column F is right here, and this shows the duration of each activity. So what I'm looking for is I want to make sure there's no zeros, which would be that the activity took 0 time, any negative numbers, and anything that seems too high. So anything that's like 12 hours, where clearly the activity didn't take that long. So when I'm looking through, I'm looking for any of those outliers. When I look through these, I'm seeing like 15 minutes, 30, hour 15, which makes sense because it was when they were teaching, 45 minutes, 10 minutes, 17, time off, so that's only 7 minutes, or preparing materials because they were making copies, so that makes sense, 2 minutes, time off because they were calling to schedule a dentist appointment. Again, all of this looks pretty good, and I'm not seeing anything that should be flagged. If there's anything that's standing out, I would just flag it and again, follow up with the teacher to confirm the time. A lot of times there's probably going to be some data entry errors where maybe they forgot to enter a start or an end time, or they the AM or PM is mixed up. So often if you see any negative numbers here, it's going to be that maybe they entered one as a PM and the next as an AM, or they had a end time entered but not a start time, or a start time and not an end time. So just look out for those. Note that if there's a negative, it's usually something with a start and end time. Next, we want to verify that an activity has been entered into each cell in column H. So this is just looking and verifying that each of these has a drop-down selected. They also have the ability to add the optional notes here. So this may be filled out completely, it may be filled out for some rows, not others, or it might be blank. It'll just vary. For this example, I'm also only going over and showing how it would work through this first day, but remember that you need to do this step or each of these steps for each of the days to make sure that your data is clean. So after I went through and checked these durations for outliers, then I would move on to Tuesday, do the same thing, Wednesday, working step by step through the whole teacher time diary. All right, so the next step is working row by row and reviewing the activity recorded by the teacher. And then in column J, recording whether that activity is either aligned to required teacher activities or above and beyond. So this is something that I had already filled out, but when you receive it from the teacher, this whole column is going to be empty, and it will be your job to go through and kind of determine if something is above and beyond or aligned. So the first one, personal planning, emails, read newsletter, I would say that that is aligned. You'll just go through each row and make sure you have that selected. Again, you'll do this for each of the days, making sure that all of it is filled out. After I've completed all the steps on my actual time tracker tab, I'm now going to move to the summary tab. So that's right here. And this tab is calculating everything based on the data that was collected in the tracker tab. Note that it's really important that you don't mess with any of the formulas in here. We do have it locked, but still, we don't want any workarounds. So when reviewing this tab, we're gonna look for the following. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. So first looking at it, this first table is showing the duration of time by day and activity, as well as the specific activity-specific duration. So how to read this is it's row by row. So on November 12th, their total hours spent working was 10 hours and 10 minutes. And then you can see how many minutes or hours they spent on each specific activity. So 8 minutes was spent on data tracking, 26 minutes was on personal planning, and so forth. So you can go through and then see how much time. It also will show any time off that was spent. Another way to look at this is over the course of the 5 days, they worked a total of 50 hours and 50 minutes, and they spent a total amount of time on each of these activities. So personal planning, they spent 2 hours and 10 minutes. Family engagement, they spent an hour. Duty, they spent 6 hours and 25 minutes. So this is an overview of how to read this table. This next table is showing the duration and proportion of time by activity. So this is overall for the total 5 days. Again, broken down by these same activities, but it's showing the total duration spent during those 5 days, which should match what is presented here. And then the percent of that time, so the percent of their total amount of time, which is down here, which again is 50 hours and 50 minutes, that was spent on this activity. So they spent approximately 1.3% of their total time over the 5 days on data tracking. If I'm briefly looking over, I can see anything where there's the high. So I can see that they spent 42.6% of their time, or 21 hours and 40 minutes, teaching their lessons. So that's kind of how it's broken down. This last table is showing you the number and percent of activities that were aligned to their required teaching duties. So you can see the counts, total activities, and then the percents. So on day 1, around 64% of their time was spent on activities aligned to required teacher duties. Again, because this is an example, each of these days are the same just because the data was copied. Yours is going to be different on each day. So now when I'm going back, that was just an overview of how to read this spreadsheet. We first want to ensure that there are data at least filling rows B5 through B9. So again, this is showing that data was entered for 5 days. So again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I see that there is data fully entered through this whole column. So I know that they've completed the time diary. Again, I already did that when I looked at the time tracker tab, but this is just making sure everything copied over correctly. Next, we want to review the data in column C and verify that there are no negative durations. So again, this is right here. We'll want to make sure that there's nothing that is negative. If you notice a negative duration, this means that a start time was entered on the time tracker, but an end time was not recorded. Ideally, if this occurred, you caught this when you were checking your time tracker tab, but sometimes some things are going to slip past you. So if you notice a negative, go back to your time tracker and determine where an end time was not recorded. Lastly, we want to verify that cell D47 is 100%. This means that all of the time is being accounted for and all of the percentage of their time is equal to 100. After you've worked to clean the data in the time diary, the next step is to compile the data collected in the various time diaries into one document. So kind of similar to how we approach the focus group data. Remember that when you are collecting these time diaries, you're going to have multiple time diaries, and we want to be able to summarize the data that's collected from all of the time diaries so that you have one document saying, this is what the data said at our campus. So the first step is going to be to open the campus time diary summary document. So I'm going to open this up and kind of walk you through what this looks like and consists of. It's going to look pretty similar to your actual teacher time diary, but just walking you through. We don't need to worry about the summary tab because this is all going to be auto-populated based on all the data that you enter in each of these tabs. So you'll always work teacher by teacher, and all of this is just going to be copied over. So what I'm going to do is have pulled up this campus time diary, and then on the other side I will have my actual time diary. So this is the summary, and then this is the actual time diary. So what you're going to do is, again, just copy over this data so that it fills your summary table. I'm going to start on teacher 1 because this is the first teacher time diary that I received and completed the cleaning process on. So what I'm going to do, and this is really important, is start with cell B5. I'm going to drag down to B12. And then I am going to slide all the way down to column AG and make sure that I have cells B5 through AG12 highlighted. Then I'm going to go and edit, copy. Now I'm going to go to my summary template document, again making sure I'm on teacher tab 1, and I'm going to put my select cell B5, and I'm going to go and do edit, and then it's really important that you do paste special in the values only. We don't want to copy over the formulas because that will be pulling in different data. We only want the values. So once I click values, these will select, and it won't pull in any of the formulas that are in this screen if you look up into the formula tab. This pulls just the straight data over, which is what we need to summarize. After I have this full table copied over. I will just verify that I have data all the way through the last column, and then verify that everything looks correct, so it's all adding up. Now I'll go down to the next table and do the same thing. So starting with C17 over to D17, I'll scroll down to the very bottom, looking up here, making sure C17 through D47 are highlighted. Then I'll do edit, copy, go over to my summary template, select cell C17, edit, paste special, values only. So then again, I'll do a quick peruse, making sure all of the rows are filled, and then make sure these totals add up and equal what is presented on the time diary tab. All right, then you're gonna see we have this last table to fill out, following the exact same process. I will start in cell E50, go down to E54, oops, slide over to column K, and then make sure up here that I have E50 through K54 highlighted. Then I'll do edit, copy, go to my summary tab, select cell E50, edit, paste special, values only. Again, making sure that everything is looking consistent. You don't have to remember all of those cells that I was going through. It goes through these steps in the workbook or the data collection guide. It will tell you what specific cells again. So this video is just kind of supplementary to the data collection guide, but all of these are mentioned with screenshots in the guide. So again, I think it's helpful to watch this video and then go through this guide as you work through these steps. So these steps are everything that we just worked through of copying everything over. So we have that completed. Again, it's important that you work time diary by time diary. So notice that I just completed one time diary. Maybe I administered a total of 6. So then I would be doing this process 6 different times. I think it's important to do it time diary by time diary because then you can work through each of the steps and make sure you don't miss anything. So after I completed this, I would know that my Teacher 1 tab is complete, and then I would go and clean my second teacher time diary. Once that teacher time diary was completed, I would go to the second tab and copy the data over. Once you have all of the data copied over, so say you have 6 teachers, you have tabs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 entered, you'll see everything presented in this summary tab. So this is going to show you an overall of what are the totals, the averages. We're seeing some errors right now because there weren't data collected for all of these, but this is what's going to show you overall for your campus what was represented in the data. Again, we're here to support you throughout this whole process. So hopefully this video helps walk through some of the steps, but please feel free to reach out with any additional questions or support.